Good morning. So let's expand on starting a home care business. We went through the most basic steps. Moving on. So another thing to keep in mind when you're starting a home care company, you will be required to do a background check. For South Carolina, that's where I'm at. We have to do, it's called a SLED check, but you will have to do a background check. Keep that in mind. If you know that you have assault, even if it was years ago, if you know you have any violent crimes, you might want to partner with someone else, and whenever you get the result, if they deny it due to your background, you can always appeal. There's an appeal process. There was a lady under my comments that has her appeal coming up in the next couple months. So keep in mind, you can always appeal. The first no is really never a no. Keep going. Secondly, so we talked about getting your LLC and your EIN. You will also need to get an NPI number. And that's just a provider number. That is one way, especially if you're billing insurance and doing Medicaid and Medicare, that is the number they're going to use to essentially track you. And you will need it for your application for your home care state license as well. Get an NPI number. It's free. It's free. You just have to go to the website, put in your application. Now, getting on with Medicaid and Medicare. So let's talk about that. I'm looking a few things up to make sure I'm not going to misspeak. So for the main ones that are accepting Medicaid and Medicare, it's going to be mainly for because remember I said there's two parts. It is going to be primarily for medical. So you have non-medical and medical. These are going to be for medical. All right. And again, you have to go to your state website for Medicaid because Medicaid is a state program. So go to your state website for the Medicaid application and you will find it there. Now, there is a fee. Again, it may vary state to state. The application can be kind of long, but you submit it and they will reach back out to you. You're gonna have to get fingerprinted as well. And that's also part of the background check. They're gonna request you get fingerprinted. So you will get fingerprinted. Expect to do that as well. So for South Carolina, it's Healthy Connections Medicaid. You go on here, you click providers, and you click become a Medicaid provider. There are, of course, pros and cons with accepting Medicaid and Medicare for insurance. You're going to open up your base to have more clients if you're accepting Medicaid and Medicare, but you also, a con of that, look at the population that is using those services. And a lot of people have Medicare. Medicare is for anyone over 65, so pretty much everyone has that, but that's usually their secondary insurance, and they have a primary in front of that, so be mindful of the clients you are accepting. All money is not good money. You'll figure that out. And whenever you do start getting your clients, I'm getting a little off track, but whatever. Whenever you do start getting your clients, you need to do a home visit. Do not just accept them off the strength of being money hungry and wanting to get started. Go do a home visit. You need to see their house before you send anyone out there because they may have 18 dogs and 47 cats. They may have roaches. They may have mice and rats. You need to go lay eyes on their place. If you don't feel comfortable in that environment, do not send your staff there. Okay? That is very important. You can do phone calls, of course, Zooms, of course, but before they are admitted to your home care agency, you need to do an in-person visit to their home. Also, when you're doing an assessment, look at how they're moving, Look at how they're moving, kind of learn about the family structure, the family dynamics, who do you need to speak with. And this is part of the templates that I have on file because you're going to need to do a care plan for every single client, right? And that's okay. You should do a care plan. And signing off on the care plan, you have to have an RN. Again, this may vary state by state, but for South Carolina, you have to have an RN sign off on the care plan. That doesn't mean that they are going to be doing home visits, but the care plan does have to be signed off by a nurse. Also, after you do your home visit and say it's pretty decent, it looks like it's going to work out, no major issues or red flags, and you get them started at that home visit. A few things. So once you do your basic assessment, you need to do a skin assessment. You have to do a skin assessment because it's a huge liability thing. You don't want your staff or your company to be blamed with any wound issues, you know, so you have to do a head-to-toe skin assessment. And if they refuse any part of that, you need to document it, and document it well. Also, whenever, say you get someone, it's going to work out, and you have to establish when you're going to provide care for them. Some people only need someone there throughout the day to help them bathe, to help do light housework, to help prepare meals, to take them to and from, run errands, doctor's appointments, wherever they need to go. And so they don't require 24-hour care. And then you have some that do require 24-hour care because they either don't sleep well, they have dementia or cognitive disorders, and they're getting up and down during the night and they're just not safe. So they do need around-the-clock care. Excuse me. So when you decide that, again, if they're private pay means through their insurance or just cash payments. Because some family will have it set up to where they can pay you straight out of pocket. No problems. So you can figure out and coordinate with the family. That's honestly one of the most easiest ways, okay? Because you can decide right then and there what your rate is, what you're going to offer, how long you're going to be there, and the payment terms. If you're dealing with their insurance, you have to contact their insurance company. And this also goes for Medicaid and Medicare. You contact the insurance companies and they tell you how many hours they're going to pay for, what type of care they're willing to pay for, okay? And anything that you do above that, if you surpass that amount of hours they allot for that client, they're not going to pay for it. The family's going to be responsible for it. So be very mindful of that. What else? Payment terms. So, and this goes into billing. Whatever billing system you use, when you are working with insurance, you need to know you're not going to get paid until more than likely 30 days after that service date. Most times are net 30s. That's what a net 30 is. You provide the service at the time, you create the invoice at the time, but payment is not expected until 30 days after that invoice. And that's just the way shit is, okay? Now, do they always wait till 30 days? No. The majority of the time, they do not. But sometimes they do, especially when you're dealing with Medicaid and Medicare. The systems are backlogged. Private insurance is usually a bit quicker. And private pay, of course. If you're working with private pay and they're paying cash out of pocket, it don't have to be 30 days. They can pay you weekly, bi-weekly, whatever terms you come with the family. So it allows for more flexibility when you're getting private pay. Now, one thing when you're dealing with private pay, they can be more demanding, they can be more picky because they know that this is the type of client that you want, ideally, right? So just be aware of that and be mindful of that. Your staff need to wear scrubs. If they don't wear scrubs, they need to wear a t-shirt or some type of shirt with your company name on it. But they need to look presentable and they have to be drug screened. So this is part of the thing with your home care license as well. One of the compliance documents. They want to see on file that you have, at least for South Carolina, they want to see on file that you have a drug screen policy and procedures. So you create the policy and procedure. And like for me, I partner with, I think it's Fast Labs. And I just send my staff to Fast Labs anytime they have to get tested, drug tested. And that's just before. I usually do it one time before. Now, if there's any issue, I will do it again. Especially if anyone gets hurt or injured and they want to do workers' comp. They have to do a drug test within 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And that works net 32. So you get your business set up with a lab company and you send your staff there, and you only pay every 30 days. So that's very convenient. Also with background checks, like Checker, that's the same thing. You funnel your staff in, you put in their information, they have to fill out the rest, and then you pay the invoice every 30 days. So you're not going to be paying out of pocket for those two things. Now scheduling, you want to have a scheduling system in place that is geo-tracking. So they can only clock in for work if they are at that client's house. So they have to have their location services on, and they have to allow it, and they will be at the client's house. And then whenever they have to clock out at the client's house too. And if they do clock out somewhere else, then it should alert you to that. But yeah, and also you have to have another compliance document is like an incident report. You have to have an incident report, and a lot of this stuff again is templates on my website. But an incident report, that's why I stress it's very important you get background checks on your people before you send them into anyone's home. Because you're dealing with people that may forget, you know, or they may just instinctively blame someone for misplacing something and think that it got stolen. Anytime there's an incident, you have to follow your policy and procedures. So you have to create a good incident report, document everything, have the staff document everything, have the client document everything, and then you do an investigation, you know, and just do the best you can with what you have. And it's not always going to be a fit. One staff member may work better with a different client opposed to the others. You get what I'm saying? So it's more about personality and your staff members' abilities, what they are comfortable doing. Not everyone wants to take someone to and from, or has the car to be able to take someone to and from appointments. Say they have a wheelchair, they can't fit the wheelchair in their car, you know, so it's very important to think of those things. And that's where your structure comes in with your documents and your care plans and everything else. Okay, moving on. This is not one of the businesses that you can start for free. It takes money to make money. You need startup because you're going to have to cover your scheduling systems. You're going to have to cover your billing systems. You're going to have all your paperwork in place and pay the fees for the applications. For South Carolina, the in-home healthcare application is $700. And you have to renew that annually. And any other type of application, like for Medicaid and Medicare, you're going to have to be prepared to cover the cost. And payroll. You're going to have to cover the cost of payroll, at least for the first 2 to 3 months. So I would say 5 on the very low end, 5,000, but plan for 10,000, because you're also going to have to do marketing. You're going to have to print flyers and brochures and use your gas and your time to go around all these places, to go to these events, to network, to get in people's faces, to let them know that you exist and you want their clients. So I'd say 5 to 10,000 startup. And 5 is pushing it. It is pushing it. And keep in mind, you have to be able to pay your bills and live during this startup time. And whenever you first start making money, you're really making money to cover payroll. So I wouldn't even plan on being profitable until about a good 3 to 6 months. And that's early. That's early. Honestly, about 12 months before you're really like profitable. But you have to create these systems and be able to afford these systems and afford payroll, and everything else. Okay. I'm not saying that to deter you, but I'm being realistic, because if you put your time and money into this, you don't want to end up having to waste it, you know, because it's a lot of money and it is a lot of time. A lot of time. Now, I will be offering like a group session if more people show interest in this. I'm not opposed to doing that, and we can go through line by line. We can go through what state y'all are in, and or maybe not a group session, maybe one-on-one. I could do one-on-one sessions for a few people, just so we can make sure we get your paperwork, because that's going to be the biggest thing in the beginning, ensuring that all your applications are filled out properly, everything is meeting the requirements, and you have what you need. And after that, and after you have the checklist of what you need to do after that, that's honestly the hardest part. It's the beginning, making sure you have all your documents and everything in line. And after that, all you have to do is get the clients, you know? So I'm not opposed to doing that. I could do that for a few weeks, one-on-ones. But yeah, this is a great industry to get into. It really is. I am a nurse. I'm an LPN. I've been one for about 13, coming on 14 years. But either way, you do not have to have a medical background to do this. Does it help? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't have a medical background, you're going to have to partner with someone who does, especially for your care plans, especially not even for your care plans, just to maybe go in and do the initial assessment. You know, you want a nurse or someone with some type of medical background to go in and do initial assessments and do the care plans. So that you will have to pay to partner with someone to get them to do that. And then you have to figure out how you want to pay your staff. Do you want to do 1099 or W-2? Starting out, you probably want to do 1099. A lot of people do 1099. It's easier for the employer. You don't take out any taxes of your staff's paychecks. I do W-2, but ideally you probably want to start out doing 1099 and pay them as independent contractors. And you don't want to pay anyone under the table. You want to use a payroll system, and you want to be able to track it. That's very important. You can't really be cheap in the beginning on your systems you put in place, because they are going to make or break your business, especially as you start to grow. Because once you find one good referral, you got one good company or like nursing home or rehab office, or you really get close with a few social workers, you're going to take the fuck off, okay? You're going to take off, and it's going to grow so fast. And of course, word of mouth. Word of mouth is always going to be like the tried and true way of marketing, because people know people, especially people that are in this area and looking for someone to care for their parents, or the parents themselves are looking for someone to come care for them. Yeah, they're definitely going to spread the word. And also in that video, I didn't mention that you can also go into assisted living facilities, because there's a thin line between someone that qualifies for assisted living or residential independent living versus skilled nursing. And a lot of time, family members, especially if they have the means, they will pay someone to still sit with their loved one during the day, even if it's just during the day, because they know these facilities are short-staffed. They know their loved one might need extra attention, or they may want them just to have that extra care, so they don't mind it because they have it. So they're going to pay someone to sit with them inside the facility. Think of that, sitting with them inside the facility. Someone else handles their medication administration because they're in the facility. The CNAs will come and check on them, or the PCAs, whatever they're called, will come and check on them, but overall, you would handle their hands-on care. Or arrange for staff too. And that is a sweet setup, and that happens a lot. A lot. It happens more than what you would probably think. And going back really quick, I know I kind of bounced around a lot. Sorry. But for Medicaid and Medicare, again, you're going to have more of a client base that you're going to be able to get to, and it's more of like guaranteed money, essentially. It's just the trade-off you're willing to take for the type of clients that those insurances may attract. So, excuse me, it's just a trade-off between the two. But you do have to apply, and you have to renew annually for both of them, if I'm not mistaken. And I think you even have to do fingerprints for both of them. It's a long and drawn-out process. But it does give you more options. So it is a good thing to do. It gives you more options with who you accept and your billing and all this and that. But yeah, this is a very good starting place for you. And like, I've met women who have, and men who have residential care homes or group homes, and they have a home care business to come in the home that they own, that are doing the group home to provide the care. That is how you get ahead, okay? And that's what I want to do. So yeah, look into that. Look into home care, period. All right? I hope this helps. And if you're interested in one-on-one, I will put info down. Okay? All right. Love you. Bye.